We gathered at our usual diner after work on Friday, listening as Adam Coleman recounted how he had recently discovered that his wife of 25 years had been unfaithful long ago. Our friends offered their condolences, reminding him that divorce could be financially draining. They had known each other for ages, and I had joined their group not long after relocating to this small town. All 5 of us had served in the Marines. I ended up in Seabbrook more than 10 years ago, having picked it at random from a map. Through an offshore LLC, I purchased the town's only grocery store, expanded it, and later added a gas station. At the time, Seabbrook was a logging town with a population of about 1,000, and the closest neighboring town was a half-hour drive away. Within a year, I had grown the business, secured a liquor license, and tripled the store's size. After a year, I bought land at a tax auction and began constructing a home. My friends, who worked at the mill, helped me build a 300 to 800 square foot timber house overlooking the town and the coastline. They never understood why I had never married or even dated in all my years here. Speculation ran wild, but I never shared my past. I managed my finances strategically. My company handled all tax matters, and I only took retained earnings for personal expenses. No credit cards, no traceable income. I even started using my middle name instead of my first. At the entrance to the village, a sign read, "Next stop, Takura." No one here knew I had come from Grandbridge, escaping a past I had left behind. After our second beer, we called it a night. Adam's son, Jake, was coming home from college with his fiancée, and we were all invited to a barbecue celebrating his graduation and engagement. Adam wanted to be sober when they arrived. He didn't want his future daughter-in-law thinking he was just the town drunk. Jake had secured a job with a top Grandbridge investment firm, and Adam couldn't have been prouder. As usual, I arrived last, trying to avoid my friends' wives and their persistent matchmaking. They were convinced I was either secretly into men or doomed to a life of solitude, and their curiosity only fueled their determination. I pulled up in my restored 1944 and barely had time to step out before Adam's wife, Valerie, spotted me. "You need to meet Jake's fiancée," she said with a knowing look. "She has red hair." She hesitated. "I'm telling you this because every time you see a redhead, you get quiet, distant, sad. I've always wondered if a redhead broke your heart, but I wouldn't know, because you never talk about it." She gave my shoulder a gentle pat. "Grab a beer and join us." I stepped into the backyard, where the celebration was in full swing. Kids ran around, people laughed, and Jake made a beeline for me. "Thanks again for everything," he said, leading me toward his fiancée. "Come meet Diana." At the mention of her name, she turned. My body tensed, my breath caught. My mind screamed for me to run. Diana was the spitting image of her mother. She was one of 3 identical triplets. The last time I had seen her was the morning I caught her mother in bed with my brother. She had the same fiery red hair, the same curves, the same smile. When her eyes met mine, they widened in shock. Tears welled instantly, but her face radiated pure joy. "My God, I don't believe it," Diana choked out, rushing toward me. "You're alive." She threw herself into my arms. "I knew it. I never believed you were dead. No matter how much they tried to convince me, I never accepted it." The backyard fell into stunned silence. Every eye was on us. No one spoke. Jake was the first to break it. "How do you know Alex?" Through her tears, Diana answered, "Because his full name is Alexander Jameson Moore II. He's my father." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "They told us he eliminated himself over financial troubles," she said, "but I always suspected something wasn't right. Every time we asked about it, my Uncle Daniel, my dad's brother, went silent. He only did that when he was hiding something." I held her close as she buried her face in my shoulder. It had been 15 years since I last held my daughter, when she was just 7 years old. Tears blurred my vision as the emotions I had suppressed for years finally broke free. The truth was about to be revealed. The unraveling of lies. With every eye fixed on me, I took a deep breath. My family erased me to cover up their lies, I said, my voice steady but raw. Their reputation mattered more than the truth. I scanned the shocked faces around me. One day, I came home early after dropping my daughters off at school. I'd forgotten my briefcase. When I walked into my bedroom, I found my older brother in bed with my wife, Diana's mother. The rumors spread through the crowd. They didn't even notice me at first. I recorded everything before confronting them. They laughed in my face. No shame, no regret, just laughter. I clenched my fists at the memory. I was devastated, but I had proof. I took the footage to my grandfather, Judge George Moore. He decided the scandal had to be buried. My brother, the family's golden boy, was being groomed for a political career. Wearing a widow with 3 daughters would bolster his image. Swallowing hard, I pressed on. And they were right. For 15 years, their lie held up. My wife and my brother built their life together while I was erased. I met Diana's teary gaze. If fate hadn't intervened, no one would have ever known. Silence hung in the air, then whispers. Some looked physically ill. Valerie averted her eyes, as if she finally grasped the true weight of betrayal. I held Diana even tighter. For my grandfather, only 2 things mattered: power and influence. And he had both. My first mistake was trusting him when I exposed the truth. I was vulnerable. At the time, he was being considered for a Supreme Court seat. A scandal would have destroyed him. I remember the moment he watched the footage. For the first time in my life, I heard him curse. His first call was to my wife's father, Senator William Glenn. "I'm sending you something," my grandfather said. "It's bad." Seconds later, the senator responded, "Son of a witch." A private jet was already on its way. Before placing his next call, my grandfather activated a recording program, his expression hardening into something cold and calculating. Then he dialed my wife. The words he hurled, cheater, disgrace, homewrecker, might have been almost comical if they weren't directed at the woman who had torn my life apart. "You and that fool Daniel behave like reckless teenagers," he spat. "If this gets out, your father's career is over. Mine too." Then with pure disgust, he added, "None of this would have happened, Margaret, if you just kept your legs closed." I saw his words land like a punch, but he wasn't finished. "You do realize Daniel is family, right? If this leaks, the media will turn it into a full-blown scandal." He switched to speakerphone. "Margaret, are you certain all 3 girls are Alex?" Silence. "Yes," she finally answered. He smirked. "How can you be sure? Maybe we should run some tests." Margaret snapped. "The affair with Daniel only started 3 years ago. That proves there was no one else." He laughed coldly. "And why should we believe you? You were on birth control. Who's to say Daniel was the only one?" Silence. Then he asked, "Do you love Alex?" A pause. "I used to." Her words hit me like a knife. My grandfather saw my pain, and his fury deepened. Margaret continued, her voice measured. "Daniel and I both share the blame. I was drawn to him even before I married Alex. Once he moved in, he pursued me. At first it was just desire, but it became love. We thought we could keep it a secret until Alex caught us. No guilt, no remorse." My grandfather's face darkened. "Do you love Daniel?" he asked. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "After Alex left, Daniel proposed." I said yes. His voice dropped to a chilling monotone. "So Daniel took his brother's wife, his children, and his entire life. What kind of man does that? And what kind of woman allows it?" He sneered. "Pathetic." Margaret remained composed. "Alex can still see the kids, but Daniel is running for office. Publicly, he will be their father. The courts always favor the mother, and you know it." My grandfather exhaled sharply. "Let me make this clear. I never want to hear from either of you again. To me, "You're both dead." He hurled the phone across the room, his rage boiling over. His fists clenched. "They orchestrated this," he muttered. "When your time for vengeance comes, show no mercy." Then, through gritted teeth, he growled, "Damn it, she really is a vile woman. Too bad homicide isn't legal, or I'd eliminate your brother myself." His fury reached a breaking point. He slammed his fist into the wall. The sickening crack of bone echoed in the room. His arm was broken. Still seething, he turned to me. "I never wanted this to happen. Margaret and Daniel ensured you disappeared. I have a feeling they wanted you dead." A few days later, I called my father, Richard Moore. "Hello." His voice was cautious. "It's me, Dad," I said. Silence. Then his voice wavered. "Alex, is that really you?" "Yes," I confirmed. A pause. Then softly, "How are you, son?" "I'm fine," I assured him. "Diana will explain everything." He hesitated before asking, "How's your mother?" I took a breath. "We uncovered the truth a week after my self-inflicted end. You'd be proud of how your granddaughters turned out." A weary sigh came through the line. "How did Diana find you?" "By accident," I said. "She's engaged to the son of a friend. We met at their barbecue. The second she saw me, she knew." I hesitated before making my request. "I need to stay hidden until the wedding. Can I fly in by helicopter to your estate?" Without hesitation, he answered, "I'll have the landing pad ready. Your mother will be thrilled to cook for you again." Then I grinned. "I won't tell her. I want it to be a surprise." By Monday, my former company's stock plummeted by $20. I bought 1,000,000 shares at $101, short-selling them. That night, I placed an order for 4,000,000 shares at $45, planning to sell at $65. CNN ripped Daniel and Margaret apart. Headlines screamed of incest, deception, possible homicide. Reporters flooded their estate. Then the FBI announced an investigation into my disappearance. By Thursday, my former company was collapsing. CEO Margaret Moore was forced into a buyout. By Friday, Daniel faced a Senate ethics probe. The press demanded his resignation. Desperate, he denied everything. "The recordings are fake," he insisted to reporters. CNN ran a forensic voice analysis. The results were undeniable. Even worse, Daniel had previously claimed I had committed self-inflicted end. Yet there was never a body. That Friday, Margaret's father abruptly stepped down from the Senate. Meanwhile, my former company stock closed at $59, and my purchase at $45 was locked in. As the sun set, my helicopter descended toward my parents' estate. The moment I stepped out, my mother, Evelyn Moore, gasped, her legs buckling. My father caught her as she whispered, "My baby has come home." 15 years had passed. For the next 2 days, she fussed over me, convinced I wasn't eating enough. Nothing tasted better than her home cooking. Then came the wedding. 2 minutes before the ceremony, Diana stepped outside the church. That was my cue. As I climbed the steps, a CNN reporter caught me live. "Who are you?" I met his gaze. "I am the man who came back from the dead." Then I walked to Diana's side. She looked stunning. We exchanged cheek kisses before heading inside. My eyes locked onto Margaret. Time had not been kind to Daniel. He had our father's heavy frame, and his hair had begun to thin. Margaret turned, saw me, and clapped a hand over her mouth in shock. Hannah whispered in her ear. Tears welled in their eyes. Diana reached Jake. The priest asked, "Who gives this woman to be married?" Without hesitation, I answered, "Her mother and I." Gasps echoed throughout the church. I placed Diana's hand in Jake's. The ceremony was breathtaking. My daughters were radiant. Margaret and Daniel were ghostly pale, avoiding my gaze. During the reception, I signed the marriage certificate. The moment my legal name was inked onto the paper, word spread. Everyone who thought I was dead now knew the truth, and the reckoning had only begun. By nightfall, news had gone global. The judge and senator knew there was no fixing this. The damage was irreversible. Since I had served in the Marines before my daughters were born, they devised a plan: re-enlist me under a classified operation. For over 3 years, I fought relentlessly, earning a reputation for being fearless, even reckless. Then faulty body armor failed me. I was shot 8 times, but survived. After my discharge, I went to Hamilton Key to handle my finances. That's when Judge George Moore and my grandmother visited. "If you don't know what to do next," she said, "throw a dart at a map." That ridiculous idea brought me here. At the reception, Hannah and Marissa proudly introduced me to everyone, while I felt suffocated in my tuxedo. At the end of the line, Margaret and Daniel appeared. Margaret looked stunned. Diana spoke first. "Mother, Dad didn't find me. I found him. And I released everything about what you and Daniel did." Margaret's face twisted. "What?" she hissed. Diana held firm. "Dad never planned to use the evidence, but I did. I had to show my sisters the truth." Margaret's fury was obvious, but she stormed off without a word to me. Daniel lingered. "We need to talk. We need to fix this." "I'm already working on it," I said flatly. Daniel looked confused. "I'll treat you with the same compassion you showed me," I said, which was none. "You made your bed, now lie in it." As they left, my grin caught my daughter's attention. "Oh, something's brewing," Jake chuckled. I just laughed. The moment Margaret and Daniel stepped outside, they were served. Divorce papers for Margaret, and alienation of affection lawsuit for Daniel. The media recorded every second. Their nightmare had begun. We climbed into the limo for the wedding photo shoot. Diana held one of my hands. Marissa and Hannah held the other. Along the way, Diana explained everything to her sisters. Diana smiled. Dad kept everything: photos, letters, news clippings. He remembered more than I did. Marissa squeezed my hand. "That proves it. He never stopped loving us." The only awkward moment came during the family photo. Adam and Valerie stood in the middle to smooth things over. But Margaret and Daniel barely managed forced smiles. While we celebrated, their world fell apart, broadcasted live. The media couldn't get enough, twisting every detail into headlines. During the wedding dinner, I stood for a toast. I consider Jake's parents my closest friends, and because of them, Jake and I became like family. He's the son I never had. The room fell silent. Jake stood next, voice shaking. "It's rare for a groom to say his father-in-law is his best friend," he said, "but Diana's father has been my mentor. He paid for my education, guided me, and was there when I needed a father figure." He turned to his own father. "I'll never forget what my dad told me. You're lucky to have Diana as your wife." He paused. "To both of my fathers, thank you." Applause filled the room. When Diana and Jake took the dance floor, I had never seen a more beautiful bride. Hannah and Marissa claimed every second of my time. Then the master of ceremonies spoke. "Before we begin the father-daughter dance, I'd like to introduce General David Bloomberg." Murmurs spread as the general took the mic. "I'm here to present 3 medals to Alex and the helmet." I laughed. That old nickname stuck. He turned to the crowd. "Major Alexander Jameson Moore III led a platoon of SEALs on a classified mission. It was an ambush. 2 other platoons were also trapped. After 2 days of relentless fighting, Major Moore made a call: load the bazookas to full capacity and pass them down the line. The average Marine carries one, but Alex, he stripped down to his boots, vest, and helmet, a cigar in his teeth, and loaded 2. Then he charged into the clearing alone. The first shot hit the enemy's ammunition supply, triggering explosions. He kept firing, each shot devastating their position. Even after being shot 23 times, 8 serious wounds, he kept going. By the time he collapsed, the enemy was in retreat. His men swear that without him, none of them would have survived. Silence. I'm honored to present 2 Purple Hearts and a Silver Star to Major Alexander Jameson Moore II. I walked up. The general pinned the medals to my chest before saluting. My parents and daughters beamed with pride. Diana led me to the father-daughter dance. She chose Daddy's Home. It was emotional for both of us. Later, as the bride and groom left, an envelope was left on Diana's chair. Inside, a cashier's check for $2 million. A simple note read, "Follow your dreams." When Diana saw my signature, she burst into tears. That night, Hannah and Marissa dragged me to a late-night Chinese restaurant for one last meal together. Over dim sum and tea, we exchanged numbers and made plans for them to visit soon. I finally crashed at 6 a.m. and slept until noon. When I came downstairs, the house was packed. Valerie was laughing, telling my daughters how they had spent years trying to figure out if I was straight. I grabbed coffee. Mom followed. "What do you want for breakfast?" 6 pancakes, 3 eggs, and 4 slices of bacon. She beamed, cooking it herself. Dad walked in, holding the newspaper. The media's going wild. The Grand Bridge Times headline reads, "Dead man walking. Alive." CNN aired a feature on your military service. "Your men were stunned you survived." He smirked. "They also found out Margaret was legally married to both you and Daniel." I laughed. "And what's the media saying?" CNN spun it into an alternative lifestyle piece, he said, shaking his head. "Feminists are calling her a pioneer." I sipped my coffee as my father spoke. "They sent reporters to town. Most people praised you, but of course, some wanted their 5 minutes of fame." He leaned back. "The media's turning you into a saint, and you haven't even said a word." I smirked. "And Margaret and Daniel? They're drowning." I poured more coffee as my mother set a plate in front of me, watching me like she still couldn't believe I was home. Hannah sat down. "Dad, Daniel claims he didn't know what Mom told the judge. Do you believe him?" I exhaled. "Who knows? They had an affair for 3 years. They must have discussed what would happen if they got caught." I took another bite. "Your mother was prepared. Her words prove it." Hannah frowned. "So who orchestrated this?" "Daniel isn't a leader. Your mother planned it." Hannah sighed. "Diana told me about your gift. She didn't say how much, but she said it could set them up for life." I nodded. It was the least I could do. They're investing it for 5 years. I set my fork down. "People with money and power will do anything to cover their tracks." Hannah hesitated. "Mom got served with court papers Saturday." I nodded. "It's time." "She didn't see it coming," Hannah said. "And Daniel? He was served, too. I'm suing him for alienation of affection." Her eyes widened. "They're in trouble, aren't they?" I leaned back. "One way or another, they'll pay." "How?" Hannah asked. "I froze the family trust. Since I'm alive, everything will be examined. If they deposited money because of what they did, I can take it." Hannah blinked. "Daniel will lose millions." I shrugged. "Their problem." Hannah shook her head. "The house is owned by a trust. Everything they have is tied to it." "It's a mess," I agreed. Marissa had been listening. "Dad, can we talk in private?" We stepped into my father's office. "I have a friend," she said hesitantly. "Her ex-boyfriend has been violent. He's getting out next week, and we're afraid he'll come after her." She paused. "She's a nurse, lives with me. She's exhausted. She needs to get away." I listened. "She was at the wedding," Marissa continued. "For the first time in a long time, she showed interest in someone. She called him the man who walks tall and carries a small stick." Marissa smirked. "Should I introduce her to you?" I chuckled. "You know we're leaving tomorrow. What do you want me to do?" Marissa didn't hesitate. "Take her with you. She'd fit in with Adam and Valerie. If not for her, do it for me." "Is she that important to you?" "Yes." I raised an eyebrow. "And this man she's interested in, who is he?" Marissa grinned. You, I laughed. Are you trying to set me up? Dad, age doesn't matter, she teased. A man does things for his daughters, so I sighed. You've planned this, haven't you? She'll be here in an hour. I leaned back. I walked right into this. She just smiled. Lucille arrived. She was 33, never married, from a small town in Remington. Tall, athletic, and strong. She and Dad destroyed Marissa and me in a couple of basketball games. Afterward, we talked like old friends. I excused myself to make calls. Finally, I called Lucille and Marissa into the office. Lucille frowned. What's going on? I smiled. I have the hospital director from back home on the line. He wants to speak with you. She hesitated before taking the phone. Marissa whispered, What's happening? She's being offered an ER position. Marissa's eyes widened. If her references check out, she can go with you. I nodded. Marissa grinned. Thanks, Dad. Lucille accepted the job. A weight lifted off her. Marissa and Hannah ran off to help her pack. Our plane left at 4, landing before 8. Adam and I talked. Be careful, Alex, he said. Lucille's still a married woman. I smirked. Not for long. By the time we reached Seabbrook, I realized I needed a second vehicle. The town was growing into a small tourist hub. Lucille took in my house with a smile. I haven't been in a log house since I was a kid. Before bringing in her bags, we walked outside. The view stretched over the village, sawmill, marina, and endless Pacific. It's beautiful, she whispered. I nodded. Musk falls between 9:30 and 10. She scanned the house. You're the second person to stay here. Neither of us knew she'd never leave. I woke first the next morning. Lucille came down, looking refreshed, like she had stepped out of a storm into the sun. She moved through the kitchen with ease. Coffee's in the urn, sleepyhead, I said. She raised an eyebrow. Good morning to you too. I grinned. Let's turn on CNN and see what's new in Alex's world. She poured coffee and checked the cupboards. We need groceries if I'm cooking, she muttered. CNN was a circus. My fake mortality certificate was exposed. The doctor who signed it was in prison. Reporters swarmed my supposed burial site, an area commonly used by the mafia. Lucille studied me. You knew, she accused. I smirked. I knew. She shook her head. The judge planned this long ago, I admitted. After his end, I inherited his Hamilton Key property and realized he wanted them to pay. I had the caretaker leak the info to the media. She laughed. Marissa, Hannah, and Diana talked all night. We agree. Margaret and Daniel got what they deserved. I sipped my coffee. Your daughters hate what their mother did, Lucille said. Marissa warned me. If I hurt you, I answer to her. They think you walk on water. I chuckled. Lucille shook her head. By 10, she was finally done cleaning. I poured us each a glass of homemade blackberry wine. We sat on the porch, watching the lights below, then went to separate rooms. The next morning, I woke to bacon frying. Lucille stood at the stove, wrapped in a full-length dressing gown over a nightgown. I noticed the embroidery. Hand-stitched, she smiled. Took me 2 months. I nodded. You don't see quality like that in stores. She smiled. I love men who notice the little things. Breakfast, pancakes, runny eggs, bacon, maple syrup. I raised an eyebrow. How did you know? She grinned. Your mother told me. I smirked. What else did she say? She gave me a playful look. That's for you to figure out. I could get used to this. I'm picking up the Jeep's plates later, I told her. She nodded. I'm measuring the windows for curtains. Before I left, she kissed my cheek. Dinner's at 6, always. That's when I realized she wasn't just settling in. She was making this place a home. By noon, I bolted on the plates. Before I stepped inside, Lucille came out. The FBI started digging today. We both wondered what they'd find. CNN aired it live. My mortality certificate had been issued the day before I re-enlisted. A message from the lawyers. Margaret wanted a quick divorce. No contest. She just wanted it done. I told them to proceed. Lucille smiled. "You're doing the right thing." She had finished measuring and wanted to talk about materials. I frowned. "Why?" "This town is growing," she said. "Eventually, people will have a clear view into your house. Plus, it'll increase the value." We spent 4 hours placing orders online. When I saw the $10,000 total, I raised an eyebrow. "You expect me to hang all this?" She smirked. "Yes, but I'll help." She called Marissa. Marissa had inside info. The FBI found a sealed FedEx envelope in the coffin. Inside was a note. "Next time, Daniel and Margaret, when you try to eliminate someone, hire someone competent." It was signed by me. I burst out laughing. Lucille, still holding the phone, turned to me. "What the hell?" I grinned. Before I left, Judge George Moore had me sign blank pages. That must have been one of them. Lucille shook her head. She was about to cook when I got another call. My friends and their wives were coming to welcome Lucille. I told her not to cook. The house was already full. "They need to see it with their own eyes," Lucille joked. 10 minutes later, they arrived. I proudly introduced her. We had a classic country potluck. Fried chicken, baked beans, coleslaw, fresh rolls, beer, pecan pie. Lucille fit in instantly. By Friday, I built an outdoor cedar table that folded against the back wall. Lucille loved it. Saturday, the group arrived to install everything. The women hung curtains while we handled the rods. Adam smirked. "You'll need a garage before winter." I sighed. He was right. "But if I do it, I want a vestibule for coats and boots," Lucille added, "and space for 2 freezers." I sighed again. Valerie grinned. "You're planning for kids." I blushed. The group roared with laughter. Lucille slow-cooked 20 pounds of ribs, made salads. It was a hit. To thank her, I made breakfast Sunday before taking her on a boat cruise. She loved it, so I planned a Haverford trip. Whale watching. Pike Place Market. Later, when Marissa called Lucille, she admitted something privately. She was in love, so was I. But I'd never make the first move. Too old, too set in my ways. An interesting week. My friends teased me nonstop. They knew I was fighting a losing battle. Next week, a crew would start leveling land. Once approved, we'd build a garage, storage, a guest apartment, and a mudroom for Lucille. Meanwhile, the FBI questioned Daniel and Margaret. His reelection was crumbling. They had 2 mercenary suspects, but little evidence. Then I got a call from my old company. The president asked if I wanted to return as CEO. I asked for a week to think. Somehow, the news leaked. The stock skyrocketed to $139. Late Saturday night, a thunderstorm rocked the town. I had no idea it would change everything between Lucille and me. Lying in bed, listening to rain hammer the roof, I heard my door creak open. Lightning flashed, revealing Lucille in a thin, nearly transparent nightdress. I shut my eyes, pretending to sleep. She hesitated, then slipped under the covers, trembling. When thunder shook the house, she pressed against me. The scent of lavender soap lingered on her skin. Her warmth sent a rush through me. She threw a leg over my hips, rested her head on my shoulder. I hadn't been this close to a woman in years. She kissed my cheek. I turned. Our lips met. The kiss was hesitant at first, then urgent. We made love. It wasn't just passion. She captured me, marked me, won my heart. After entangling in the sheets, we whispered our love. At 10 the next morning, hunger forced us up. I went downstairs in pajama pants and started coffee. The doorbell rang. FedEx. My divorce certificate. The court had waived the waiting period. I was free. Lucille, glowing, walked downstairs. Her phone rang. She laughed. That was Marissa. I smirked. What did she say? She asked if she could start calling me Mom. I chuckled. You had to tell her. Lucille kissed me. Someone had to make the first move. You never would. She was right. At the kitchen table, she picked up my lawyer's letter, eyes widening at the certificate. Tears welled up. She looked at me. I stood, pulled her into my arms. Time to meet your parents, she asked softly. I nodded. Yes. She called her mother. Do we still have the Labor Day reunion? Her mother was thrilled. They'd moved it to Saturday, so more could attend. Marissa and Hannah were off for the summer. We spent a day going through keepsakes I had saved. My daughters and Lucille were surprised at how much I knew about their lives. When the day arrived, we flew into Hillston Airfield, checked into a Holiday Inn. Lucille hadn't been home in 2 years. She warned me. Her father and brothers wouldn't go easy on me. Since I was the first man she had brought home, I expected a grilling. The next morning, we arrived early. Lucille's mother, Lorena, rushed onto the porch, shocked to see her daughter with a man. Then her father stepped outside. I froze. Bulldog Peterson, my senior drill sergeant. His first words. Well, I had thought he was a fool. He pushed me harder than anyone else. Lucille smirked. Dad, what are you doing? He teased. Lucille, what are you doing with this weakling? He shook my hand. I had tried to break him, he said. Bet $1,000 he wouldn't make it. He proved me wrong. Lucille and her mother gaped as I said, Bulldog. Taking a deep breath, I got straight to the point. I'm here to ask for Lucille's hand in marriage. I had no idea he was her father. Lucille's mother gasped. Are you serious? Yes, Mom. Bulldog grinned. You got it, Alex. My only daughter couldn't have found a better man. At that, I dropped to one knee, pulled out a ring and proposed. Lucille stood there, stunned, then whispered, yes. I slid the ring onto her finger, relieved it fit, kissed her. Her parents congratulated us, and Bulldog clapped me on the back. Give me the truck keys. Let's get a beer. Lorena wiped away tears. Her daughter had come home engaged. Bulldog's first stop was the local Veterans Legionnaires bar. Over drinks, he asked, You divorced? Yes. I told him everything. How I met Lucille, how fast it happened. He proudly introduced me to everyone. Someone asked, How'd he get the nickname Bulldog? I smirked. He was my drill sergeant. Since I enlisted at 16, he figured I didn't belong. He tried to break me. Bulldog took a sip of beer. Dan right I did. I continued. One night, someone asked what I thought of him. I said he reminded me of a bulldog on a log catching bugs, except in his eyes, I was the bug. The guys loved it. The name stuck. We spent a few hundred on drinks. I had a feeling Bulldog was trying to get me too drunk to drive. By the time we got back, the farmyard was packed. As soon as we stepped out, I heard a familiar voice. Son of a witch, Casca Alex, is that you? I turned, smirking. Pathetic. Mike. Old dog, how the hell are you? We hugged like brothers. Bulldog raised an eyebrow. You two know each other. Mike grinned. Best TAC officer I ever had. I nodded. Bulldog eyed me. Why'd he call you Alex in the hard hat? When I re-enlisted, I used my middle name, made Major before my discharge, I explained. The SEAL team gave me that nickname on my last mission. Mike's eyes widened. You're the one who saved my son's life. Lucille whistled loudly. This is Alex, she announced. Before we continue, my mother has something to say. She whispered to me, You're keeping the keys. If my dad and brothers drink with you, you'll be too drunk to drive. Lucille's mother, Lorena, stepped forward. I want to announce the engagement of my only daughter, Lucille Peterson, to retired Major Alexander Jameson Moore I. A murmur spread. She continued. Alex wanted our approval before proposing. My husband trained him, said he was one of the best Marines he ever had. It took him 20 seconds to give his blessing. As soon as he did, Alex got down on one knee. The crowd was stunned. Mike laughed. "You're really gonna be my brother-in-law." For the next hour, Lucille introduced me to her family. She whispered, "I haven't seen them this proud in a long time." She was right. By night's end, I was drunk. I had no idea how we got back to the hotel. Hell, I didn't remember half the night when I woke up. I groaned. "Damn." Lucille, dressed and sipping coffee, smirked. "You look like hell." I sat up. "Did I disgrace myself?" She chuckled. "You lasted longer than the other two idiots." Not comforting. You deserved it. During breakfast, Lucille snapped a photo of her ring and sent it to Marissa. "If you agree to be my bridesmaid, you can start calling me Mom." Minutes later, all three daughters called, ecstatic. Amid the excitement, we got an update. Daniel and Margaret were drowning in legal trouble. The FBI was relentless. Careers in ruins, legal fees piling up. Daniel even ordered DNA tests on his sons. They were his, but their marriage was collapsing. My daughters predicted Daniel wouldn't last a year. The money behind the attempt on my life was traced to him. He had used Margaret to funnel payments through a trust, proving their plan started long before I caught them. But he still claimed he was framed. Most believed he'd lost his mind. Meanwhile, my trust had grown to millions. Lawyers would fight over it for months. But the court had ruled all changes made after my pass away were illegal. I owed Daniel and Margaret 19% of its current value. If they wanted property, they had to pay market price, a devastating blow for them. I instructed my lawyers to handle the split under one condition. I kept the family home. With Lucille's blessing, I accepted the CEO position, limiting my time away. She had become my world. She started at the hospital and fit right in. Her shifts rotated between 3 and 4 12-hour days, so I always made sure dinner was ready when she got home. Our friends found it hilarious that I had become so domesticated. 3 weeks later, we flew to Grand Bridge for my formal CEO announcement. After the press conference, we returned to my parents' house. My daughters and Jake were coming Saturday for a welcome to the family dinner for Lucille. Despite having staff, my mother insisted on cooking everything herself. That night, Lucille and I finalized our wedding plans. Hillston for the ceremony, Grand Bridge for a reception, and a final celebration back home. She always wanted a winter wedding, so we set the date for the last Saturday in December. We had just finished dinner when there was a knock at the door. Dad answered. He returned, stunned. "It's your ex-wife. She wants to talk." Every instinct screamed no. My parents thought the same, but Lucille placed a hand on my arm. "You have to forgive her before you can let go." I exhaled, then walked into my father's office. After a moment, I called Margaret inside. Before she spoke, I held up a hand. "Before we start, listen to the last words I ever heard from you." She paled. "For your information," I said, "CNN now knows I was present when the judge recorded your conversation." I heard everything. Her face drained of color. The media had never aired the full recording. I stepped out for a drink, letting her listen. When it ended, I returned. "Imagine hearing your wife erase you from your daughters' lives." I said coldly, "Imagine the pain." She stayed silent. "What did Daniel do for 3 years besides stab me in the back?" I leveled my gaze. "What did you tell our daughters when they asked about me?" She swallowed. I didn't wait for an answer. "The story of your father's pass away is sad but true. But at least we can be grateful because it brought Uncle Daniel into your lives." I let it sink in. Was anything in our marriage real? Tears filled her eyes. Diana, Hannah, and Marissa heard the recording. They saw the timestamp before my end. "Now they doubt everything you and Daniel told them." I stood. "In your eyes, I was just a stepping stone for your ambitions. But once Diana found me, that ended. I'm reclaiming my name, my family, my life." Margaret looked broken. Tears streamed down her face. I couldn't tell if it was remorse or shame for getting caught. I pushed a box of tissues toward her, picked up my drink, and walked out. My parents and Lucille sat together, flipping through old photo albums. Dad glanced up at me, studying my face. Didn't go well, did it? I took a slow sip of my whiskey. She listened to the recording. I made her relive what she did. I asked questions she couldn't answer. And, he prompted. She lost it, I said flatly. I left before I had to watch her cry. Mom sighed. I set my glass down. She can't deny it anymore. Lucille's voice was gentle. Are you okay? For the first time in a long time, I admitted, the anger is gone. I can finally move on. Mom exchanged a glance with Lucille. Looks like you were right. I refilled my glass and retreated to the office. Margaret was still there, staring at the floor. Finally, she spoke. We saw you as a golden prize. Finally, we had what we always wanted, a life behind closed doors. I scoffed. Her voice was quiet but steady. When the judge called, Daniel was with me. We saw it as interference. His anger guided my words. I didn't think about what I was saying. No, you just didn't care. She swallowed hard. Your father saw the video before the judge called him. Within an hour, he was on a plane. He and the judge thought you would set them up. A bitter laugh escaped me. I set them up. She winced. They thought if the truth got out, their careers were over, so that made it okay to erase me. Margaret hesitated. Diana ordered a DNA test to confirm what they believed. And, her voice was barely above a whisper, she is your biological daughter. I clenched my jaw. If it were legal, they'd have had you both eliminated. She flinched. Your words that day made it clear you knew exactly what you were doing. She lowered her head, tears welling. Richard barely speaks to you now. You know why. She remained silent. I stood. What gave you the right to cut me out of my daughter's lives? No answer, because there isn't one. Without another word, I left. Lucille was waiting. Thoughts. She's justifying herself. I said, she hasn't apologized. She regrets getting caught, not what she did. Mom and Dad listened quietly. She came hoping I'd save her. I walked back inside. Margaret was still there, staring at the floor. We're facing jail, she muttered. Fraud, tax evasion, theft, lying to the FBI. Our lawyers are negotiating a deal. If you speak on our behalf, maybe they'll be lenient. I smirked. You want me to save you? She nodded. I chuckled. When was the last time you even asked how I was? Silence. You never did. She opened her mouth. I held up a hand. You did this to yourself. I can't help you. I opened the door. Let me walk you out. Margaret hesitated, tears streaming. I shook my head. You'll both end up in jail, still claiming it's not your fault. As soon as Margaret left, I laughed. So did my parents. Lucille smirked. Well, that was interesting. That night, we slept apart for the first time in a while. I missed her warmth. At 2 a.m., she slipped into my room. I can't sleep without you, she whispered. I smiled. These moments keep us young. She curled into me, and I held her close. Seeing my tears, she touched my cheek. Why? I kissed her forehead. Because I finally know what it's like to have a loving wife. That made her cry. Then she whispered, how do you feel about kids? I thought for a moment. If you're okay with me being in my 60s when the last one leaves home, I'd love more than one. She smiled. Then let's start. And so we did. The next morning, Dad was already up brewing coffee. I poured myself a cup and sat down at the table. He smirked. Morning. Thanks for ruining my night. I raised an eyebrow. How exactly did I do that? He took a sip of his coffee, then chuckled. Your mom woke me up when Lucille snuck into your room. She wanted to know what to do. I grinned. And what did you tell her? I told her you're both adults, he said with a shrug. But I'm teasing her about it for weeks. I chuckled. Tell Mom we figure out we don't sleep well apart. Dad nodded. Speaking of which, we'll be house hunting in Seabbrook. I frowned. Wait, what? With me semi-retiring and your mom wanting to be a full-time grandma again, he said, setting his mug down. We might as well be close. I laughed. Guess we better start working on those grandkids soon. Diana and Jake arrived later that morning. We hadn't seen them since their wedding, so it was good to catch up. Lucille teased me. Your tough Marine father-in-law got wasted with my dad and brother. Jake raised an eyebrow. Oh, really? Lucille pulled out her phone. And this is a video of them, drunkenly singing a barrack song. Laughter erupted. Even my father smirked. Jake liked that Lucille's dad had been my drill sergeant, and her brother had served under me. Marissa and Hannah arrived an hour later. Marissa was thrilled when Lucille officially asked her to be maid of honor. Mom bragged that we were planning for kids. Diana, being Diana, chose that moment to show my infamous drunken video, leading to endless teasing. Jake convinced Lucille to send it to his dad. Oh, and while you're at it, Lucille said, tell them we're engaged. We've been so busy with work and construction we haven't had time. She explained the addition. 4 garage spaces, a storage area, and a 3-bedroom apartment above, connected by an enclosed walkway. The backyard had doubled. The patio expanded. Weather permitting, we'd seal everything soon. Then I told my daughters I had spoken to their mother. Silence. I played the recording. First, the judge's conversation with Margaret, then my own. Their faces fell. No guilt. No remorse, Marissa whispered. Diana shook her head. She actually expected you to help them. Like you owed her. Hannah frowned. You asked direct questions, and she ignored them. Marissa sighed. She can't see past herself. In her world, everything revolves around her. Hannah looked at me. Was she always like this? I thought before answering. Before you 3 know. But after you were born, something changed. I thought it was exhaustion, so I hired a nanny and left the military to help. But by the time I came home, she was already gone. Marissa nodded. Sounds like postpartum depression. Sometimes people never fully recover. Maybe, I said, but it doesn't excuse what she did. Marissa shook her head. No, and I'm done. I don't want anything to do with her. Hannah and Diana agreed. I sighed. Just one more thing she'll blame me for. I didn't know then how true that would be. To lighten the mood, Lucille invited the girls to pick bridesmaid dresses. I interrupted. I'll be in black. Marissa smirked. Why? Because black is for mourning. Diana raised an eyebrow. Mourning what exactly? My freedom. A collective groan filled the room. I grabbed a beer and stepped outside. Dad joined me. Son, don't second-guess your choices, he said. You did the best you could with what you knew. No looking back. Life's too short. And you have 3 daughters who make their grandfathers proud. I listened. They carry your values. Your mother and I split our estate between you and me. Daniel is out. You served your country, saved lives, and took the high road. Now you're free to live your life. The weight on my shoulders eased. Your daughters just cut their mother out, Dad added. That tells you everything. You brought them home. I nodded. He was right. He chuckled. And just imagine. You could have grandkids older than their aunt and uncle. That made me laugh. Not many get a second chance, he said. Focus on what's ahead. With a smile, I followed him inside. Lucille, my mom, and my daughters were knee-deep in wedding planning. Venue, flowers, themes. I shook my head. Let them figure it out, Dad said. Just show up when they tell you. He was right. We spent the afternoon playing cribbage for pennies. I lost $4.65. Sunday, before we left, Mom had Lucille call her mother. Lorena was thrilled. Mom also insisted on being involved in the planning. I overheard her saying, "Don't worry about the cost. We're at war. Our gift." Dad rolled his eyes. The 2 mothers argued, but Mom held firm. She'd been called surgeon since she was a teenager. She wasn't backing down. I watched Lucille, shaking my head. I'm marrying my mother. For the first time, I wondered, had I ever really loved Margaret, or had I just been chasing something I never actually found until now? On the drive home, Lucille mentioned her parents were visiting. Her mom wanted to finalize the menu, pick a band, and complicate everything. Marissa and Hannah were off for the summer. We flew back to Seabbrook. Construction was in full swing. With 2 months left before the wedding, time was flying. When we got home, we found out the local dive bar had burned down. By Tuesday morning, I met with the owner. He had no insurance and didn't plan to rebuild. I offered market value and negotiated for his liquor license. By Thursday, the mayor approved it. By week's end, construction had begun. Crews were eager to start on Bulldogs, a full-scale bar and restaurant spanning a city block, using local logs and reinforced concrete. They estimated the exterior would be done in 2 weeks. The old staff happily returned, excited by the new name. Before construction finished, we rented the restaurant space and hired a Haverford firm to fast-track the bar's interior. Lucille's mom sent a photo of Bulldog in uniform, which I had etched onto the glass entry doors. Above it, Bulldogs was engraved. Lucille and our moms finalized wedding plans while she furnished her new apartment. The bar's grand opening was a massive success, surpassing the old place's popularity. Lucille had designed the menu, and the crowd loved it. With 31 days until the wedding, everything was set. Lucille's parents arrived Friday at 5. That morning, she insisted I drive her to Carlton Airport without explanation. At 2, a 6-seater plane landed. To my surprise, my father stepped out. He was a pilot. Both my parents looked great. That evening, instead of cooking, we took Lucille's parents to Bulldogs. I let Bulldog drive my old Ford while Lucille followed in her Jeep. Bulldog froze when he saw his image etched into the glass doors. My father patted my back. "Well done." I grinned. "Go on, give the command." Bulldog threw open the door and barked out his old drill sergeant order. 16 former Marines, bar regulars, snapped to attention and saluted. Bulldog shook hands, calling each by name. Lorena beamed. "Looks like we'll have to carry him home." Lucille kissed me. "I love you," she whispered. Then she turned to her mom. "Alex named the bar after Dad." Lorena's eyes widened. "He didn't tell you?" "Nope," Lucille grinned. "He wanted it to be a surprise." Overwhelmed, Bulldog nearly lost it when he spotted the plaque above the bar. Named after the toughest drill sergeant of them all, Bulldog Peterson. By closing, Dad and I had to carry Bulldog upstairs. His former recruits had gotten him very drunk. Later, Bulldog admitted he had only been truly shocked twice, when I asked for Lucille's hand, and that night at the bar. That night, as we relaxed, Lorena dropped a bombshell. "Bulldog is retiring." I glanced at Lucille. I thought he planned to work a few more years. Lorena sighed. "He was, but Mike is taking over the farm. And we're moving to the city. Bulldog has too much energy to sit still." Lucille's concern was clear. "If he lived here, he'd be the perfect person to run the bar," I said. Lorena hesitated. "Where would we live?" Lucille grinned. "Mom, we have a guest apartment. It's yours if Dad agrees." Lorena nodded. "We'll think about it." Later, Lorena whispered to Lucille, "It's already a done deal." He's too proud to admit it yet. While Lorena and Bulldog explored the island, my parents house hunted. Lorena wanted Bulldog to warm up to the area before officially suggesting a move. Meanwhile, Bulldogs was thriving, and Lucille and I set up our new addition. Then an FBI vehicle pulled into our driveway. Agent McCormick introduced himself and requested to speak privately. I insisted Lucille stay. 2 arrests had been made. Daniel was in custody. Fraud, tax evasion, falsifying a passing, attempted homicide, theft, and an attack on Margaret. No bail. Margaret was charged but released for their kids' sake. The worst part, An informant revealed Daniel had hired a hitman. The FBI needed my schedule for the next 2 months. I stared at McCormick. You really think he still wants me dead? There's a clause in your trust, he explained. If you die within 6 months of your divorce, control goes back to your ex-wife. I exhaled. So if I die, she wins. McCormick nodded. We're taking it seriously. Undercover agents were already assigned to monitor the situation. After he left, Lucille and I sat in silence. We need to tell your parents, she said. I nodded and figure out how to protect ourselves. That Saturday, all 6 of us, my parents, Lucille's parents, Lucille, and me, gathered before the wedding. My parents had purchased a 5-acre lot near the port. A log home was under construction, set to be finished before our first child was born. Bulldog wasn't thrilled about moving to the city. He liked the slower pace here. One evening, while my parents were outside, I turned to Bulldog. How much are you taking from the farm when you move? He shrugged. Not sure. I just don't like neighbors 200 yards away. Lucille smirked. Why, Dad? I leaned forward. Would you consider running the bar? You and Lorena could live in the apartment rent-free. Salary of $60,000 a year. Bulldog's eyes widened. He hesitated. Think about it, I said. No rush. Later, Lorena whispered to Lucille. It's already decided. He'll say yes. As Lucille and Lorena prepared a farewell dinner, we watched Bulldog and Lorena drive back to Remington. That night, Lucille and I sat my parents down. We need to talk. Mom's face fell. What's wrong? I told them everything about the FBI visit. She went pale. This is my fault. I shook my head. No, it's not. Tears welled in her eyes. If I had raised Daniel differently. I stopped her. Mom, Daniel had a good life until he met Margaret. You raised us with strong values. I followed them. He threw them away. She wiped her tears and nodded. Lucille leaned in. I have news that might cheer you up. Mom and Dad looked at her expectantly. Lucille smiled. I'll be 32 weeks pregnant by our wedding. Silence. Then my mom screamed in delight. I was in shock. If it's a girl, she'll be Lorena Evelyn. If it's a boy, Alexander Jameson Moore. Mom cried. Dad grinned. That night, emotions ran high. Fear, relief, and hope for the future. The night before the wedding, the men gathered at the Legion. The women threw Lucille a baccalaureate party. People bragged about leaving Remington to run Bulldogs. Daniel's plan fell apart when the hitman was arrested. He got 20 years. Margaret took a plea deal, 5 years suspended, testifying against Daniel to avoid prison. His trial was set for the new year. With the trust settled, Margaret sold the family estate and filed for divorce. Lucille and I built a life together. We had 4 kids, Alexander first. 10 months later, Lorena, then twins Silva and Wilford. Diana and Jake had a boy and a girl. Marissa married a Marine and worked for my company. Margaret married Tiny Mike and opened another Bulldog's near the farm. Bulldog ran the bar for 3 years before retiring for good. Mom and Dad's log home was finished before our first child was born. Life wasn't perfect, but it was better the second time around.